huge win for men's basketball as the Owls snap a 10-game losing streak, and they do it on Hooters' birthday.
I'm Sam Covone, live from the studio set. I'll be breaking down the current women's basketball standings all across the American Athletic Conference. Spoiler alert, it has Temple moving upwards in a big way.
And I'm Jackson Batchelor. Later in the show, I will have the story of a former Temple football player who decided to move all of his focus to getting his degree. OwlSports Update is live, and it starts right now. Hello and welcome to a new edition of OwlSports Update. I am Michael Mirville and she is Meg Doyle.
Lacrosse is off to a hot start 4 games into the season, while men's basketball breaks its losing streak. Also, one men's player reaches a milestone.
But we will start off with an impressive basketball game for the women as the Owls take their streak all the way to the top of the AAC. Temple continues to roll in conference play after beating out both South Florida and UAB. The Owls come into Monday's game just a half a game out of first place in the AAC. In their way, the Green Wave of Tulane. The Owls already beat Tulane earlier this year down in Louisiana. Off the rebound, TR East pushes the pace for Temple with the pass down low to Demi Washington, who takes a pound dribble and lays it in for 2. Washington was one of the Owls' leaders, tying with the Aaliyah Nelson, who finishes with a hook shot. They both finished with 16. Tristan Taylor now rises up for her only triple of the game to take the Owls within 1 in the second quarter. In the third, Tulane won't back down. Off the post move, earns the bucket and is headed to the line. Temple now with handoff action, and Tiara Gary rises up and put the shot and extends the lead. The Owls feel it now. Nelson catches and drains another 3. Temple takes the win and now is atop of the American. Your final against Tulane, 69-52.
It was a defensive effort that got us there, and you know, I had been asking for consistency all season, and I think we're getting closer to being consistent defensively, and I think that is what got us over the hump and what got us this win.
Coming up Thursday the 22nd, the women are back on the road with 2 games down in Texas. The first one is against UTSA. The Owls will hang out in Texas for a few more days as they get ready for Rice in Houston on Sunday. With the women on a 3-game winning streak, their spot in the AAC standings shifted in a very positive way. Courts in Session beat reporter Sam Covone is live at the studio set to give us the rundown. Hey, Sam.
Thanks, Meg. It was a big week across the American as the Temple women's basketball team is now looking down at the entire AAC field of 14 teams. But there is still very little room for error. Temple jumped into the spot with some help Wednesday night. This came after North Texas's loss to Charlotte in overtime. The Mean Green are now in second place. This puts North Texas at 9-5. But look at the top. Sure, Temple is number 1, but there are 6 teams within 2 games of one another. And Temple has a tough 2-game road trip through Texas with matchups against UTSA and Rice. Both of those teams are sitting in that top group of 6. So expect a lot to change in the next 2 weeks as the Owls have 5 regular season games to go. Temple's next matchup is on the road against the UTSA Roadrunners on Thursday night at 7:30. That's all I have from the studio set. Meg and Michael, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Sam. On Tuesday, the Courts in Session crew had the chance to have Coach Diane Richardson live in the studio for the first time this season, and the timing was just right. The Owls have won 13 of their last 18. Host Jake Gable and Hayden Bandel asked a series of questions that started with, what's been the big change from the early season struggles to the success of late January and into February?
Well, I think we've finally gotten our defense together, and we're playing some great team defense. They're very active and aggressive defensively, and the defense turns into our offense.
Outside of personnel, what's been the biggest difference from year 1 to year 2 here on North Broad?
I think our culture is great. Our team has bonded, and we are here, and they're all committed and in.
And we always hear you talk about the equal opportunity offense. I'm curious, where did that come from, and where does it stem from? How did it start?
Well, you know, we wanted everybody to be able to score. And that's been my goal with the assistants and the staff, is getting everybody better basketball players, because I expect everybody to score. And by doing that, it's hard for the defense to defend us or double team us because they don't know where the scoring is coming from.
We're not done with our women's coverage. Later in the show, we'll take a look at how much has changed for women's basketball and how Diane Richardson is building a winning culture.
That was Hooter the Owl celebrating his birthday as the Owls took on UTSA at home on Sunday. A lot on the line here. Jordan Riley recovers his own turnover to start an impressive game for him. It's a back and forth battle, but UTSA ultimately comes out on top at half thanks to a 10-0 run ending the first half with Temple down by 7. Now in the second, UTSA still in the lead. However, a Roadrunner turnover allows the Owls to go on a run themselves. 11 points in a row, that is. Hyzier Miller with the ball finds his way to the net for a dunk that contributes to his 20 points on the day. Try as they might, but UTSA cannot gain back the lead as Temple gives Hooter the best present ever, a big 83-77 win, snapping Temple's 10-game losing streak.
The win wasn't the only bright spot for the Owls on Sunday, as forward Steve Settle III passes 1,000 points in his collegiate career. The Howard transfer scored 16 points in the win against UTSA, second most on the team.
It has been a month-long drought for the men's basketball team, one of the worst losing streaks in the last 50 years. That's 10 games. As we just saw, the Owls were able to snap it against UTSA. Hyzier Miller, Steve Settle III, and Jaleel White all contributed with 15 points or more. The Owls will be on the road for the next couple of games, starting off with the trip out to the Midwest. On Sunday, Temple takes on Wichita State at 4 in hopes of starting a winning streak.
It is now time for our first break of the day. When we come back, we will introduce our new segment, Meg and Mike's Open Mic, talking the latest on a specific sport.
Plus, the Temple lacrosse team is still perfect. Don't miss it. We will be right back after the break. Welcome back. Temple lacrosse is off to its best start in more than 10 years. The Owls are 4-0 thanks to their latest 2 wins over Manhattan and Delaware. The Owls scored 28 total goals in these 2 games, with 15 different Owls scoring at least once. To the highlights we go. Wednesday afternoon, let's start with Delaware. And a little bit of history was made in this game. Mackenzie Roth netted the game's first goal and the only goal scored in the first quarter. Meanwhile, Temple defense forced 8 turnovers, including Katie Shallow's 99th career caused turnover, breaking program history. Temple extended its lead to 4 with 3 quick goals scored by Julie Schickling, Erin King, and Belle Mastro-Pietro. However, Delaware responded with 2 goals straight to the back of the net to end the second quarter. But Temple isn't done yet. The Owls outscored Delaware 4-3 in the third, with both teams trading goals. Temple kept up its lead, ultimately taking the win 13-8 over the Blue Hens, extending its winning streak to 4.
Going back a few days, Game 3 in the season versus Manhattan. The Owls are up 1-0, but against the Temple defense, Manhattan ties it up with a goal of their own to tie it up 1-1. Mia Ciancio passes up the defender and puts another point on the board for the Owls. The Wells was shared for Temple as 11 Owls scored by the end of the bout. Goalkeeper Taylor Grulman with one of her 5 saves this matchup. And yes, by halftime, the Owls sat comfortable up 10-1. In the second half, it was lots of the same, and Temple scores 5 more goals. The Owls outlast Manhattan and earned their 3rd straight win of the season. The final at Howard Field, 15-6. It is now time to introduce our new segment, Meg and Mike's Open Mic, where Meg and I will sit down with a guest to talk the latest on a Temple sport. This time, we will discuss lacrosse.
We have Sienna Conahan joining us today, the lacrosse beat reporter for the Temple News. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, to get things started, the lacrosse season is well underway with Temple now having 4 wins under their belt. Who are some standouts for this new Temple team?
Well, offensively, there's Belle Mastro-Pietro, Mackenzie Roth, Julie Schickling. They're all graduate students and crucial scorers. There's also Amelia Wright. She's really stepped into her role this season. And then defensively, there's Katie Shallow. She just broke the school record for the most caused turnovers. And then there's goalkeeper Taylor Grulman. She's really been improving from last season, working really hard in the cage.
Now, speaking of last season, the lacrosse finished with a 2-4 record in conference play and did not make it to the NCAA tournament. Is this 2024 team a better team, or is it too soon to tell?
I think they're definitely a better team. They came into the season determined after not getting the outcome they wanted last year. So they've had really strong starts. They've outscored every opponent in the first half so far. So if they continue that and continue to play aggressively, they're definitely going to make it to the tournament.
Well, moving ahead to Saturday's game against number 21 ranked Yale, how do the Owls match up in their first contest against a ranked opponent this season?
I think as long as they play like they have been, if they play aggressively for the full 60 minutes like they've proved they can, and handle the aggression, then they'll be able to compete with whatever Yale throws at them.
Now, the AAC is a very strong conference. Is it realistic to think that the Owls can compete against teams such as James Madison in Florida?
I think they can definitely compete against them. As long as they continue to grow as the season progresses, they'll definitely be a strong opponent.
Well, I'm very excited to see how they do this season. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have.
Sienna, thank you for joining us, and stay warm on Saturday.
Thank you.
This Saturday, the Owls will take on 21st ranked Yale at Howard Field. The forecast, a high of just 41 degrees with wind chills in the 20s. Lacrosse is the only sport competing outside in the month of February, and weather that may not be the most ideal. OwlSports Update's Katie Fritz takes a look.
It's called a spring sport, but Temple Lacrosse plays half of its season in the winter.
I absolutely do not like playing in the colder weather.
The calendar says late February, but the lacrosse team is already 4 games into its season, with all 4 games being played in Philadelphia.
Playing in the colder weather, the wind's blowing harder, better communication needs to be had, shorter passes and stuff like that.
But there is really no controlling the weather, and last week's game against Manhattan is a great example. It was originally scheduled for Saturday, but a snowstorm moved the game to Friday. Still, temps were in the 30s, typical for the Northeast.
Mentally, I just gotta be like, everyone's cold. Everyone's in the same thing, just gotta push through.
February is the second coldest month of the year and the snowiest month in Philadelphia. This forces the players to adapt to these conditions. That means many wardrobe changes.
The cold weather means we pay attention to always staying warmed up on the sideline. You don't just wait till you're called to go in, and we make sure that the hands are warm because the wrists can get tight and that can affect your stick skills.
Of course, there is good news for those who are patient. The lacrosse season is a long one. The Owls' final regular season game is 2 months away in late April, when the snow around campus should be long gone. From Howard Field, I'm Katie Fritz, OwlSports Update.
Hey there, I'm OwlSports Update's Jackson Batchelor live from Edward Golson Hall. When we come back, I'll talk about a former Temple athlete who is giving up his sport to focus on getting a degree at the Klein College of Media and Communication on campus. OwlSports Update is back in just 90 seconds. Stick around.
Welcome back. The women's basketball team has come a long way from only having 8 players on the roster at the end of last season. OwlSports Update's Patty Navarro takes a look at the difference 1 year can make.
Redemption. That's the story for Temple's women's basketball this season, as they have redeemed themselves from last year's unfortunate season.
Well, we've got a lot of new members on the team. You know, last year we kind of ended our season with 8 players, and now we've got a full roster. So I'm excited about being able to play different people in different lineups.
For Diane Richardson, building a culture was key, but building a winning culture is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, culture is 90% of the battle. If you got the right culture, then they'll be coachable, and then we can teach them how we want them to play, and then we get a good result from there. And then they play for each other.
One player that was part of this 2022 season is Tiara East, who went from seeing limited numbers to being a huge piece for Temple's women's basketball this season.
It's just the work we put in over the summer for myself and for my teammates, and my teammates believing in me believing in my teammates, and also the confidence my coaches give me as well.
Temple's women's basketball has improved drastically well from being a bottom 5 team in the conference with a 6-10 record to now being 8-4 and a top 5 team in the conference. The Owls are now looking to keep up that momentum heading into March. With a defined purpose, the Owls women's basketball team forges ahead, sparking anticipation for what lies ahead in their journey. And I'm OwlSports Update, Patty Navarro.
From in-season to one's final season, as the Temple football team gets ready for spring football in March, the Owls will be without one of their best players who decided to call it a career. OwlSports Update's Jackson Batchelor is live at Edberg Olson with the story.
Thanks, Meg. Former Owl safety Alex Odom is no longer with the football team. Many people thought that he would be leaving for the transfer portal. Instead, Odom is not only cutting ties with the team, but also the sport that he's loved for many years, as he's earning his degree this spring. After 4 years with the Owls, former defensive back Alex Odom's time with Temple football has come to an end.
Definitely miss being in the locker room with the guys, definitely miss working out, definitely miss just playing the sport that I played my whole life.
The senior is eligible to enter the transfer portal, but he'll be staying on North Broad as a full-time student. Odom is a media studies and production major and will now be committing 100% of his time to academics.
You got to make decisions in life that are very hard and dig deep with yourself to figure out if that's what you truly want to do anymore.
Football players spend up to 9 hours on any given day at practice or at a game. Giving up this part of Odom's day has not been easy.
It's definitely been hard. It's been out of my comfort zone for sure. Just being a student athlete my whole life, having more time in my hands to figure out who I truly am outside of the sport I played my whole life.
Odom is eligible to fly in 4 and graduate in the spring, so his priority is to focus on his media classes and to get a degree. Even though the adjustment has been difficult, Odom feels as if the experiences that he had in the playing field can translate well to his future endeavors and the next chapter of his life. But the first chapter without a football in hand. Odom had many accomplishments in his 4 years with the Owls. He started 30 games over his career and earned a single digit for the first half of his senior season. Reporting outside Edberg Olson Hall, I'm Jackson Batchelor. Back to you in the studio.
Don't go anywhere. We are headed to our last break of the show.
When we come back, we will bring on OwlSports Update's Sarah Winton to discuss the latest on Temple golf. Stay put. OwlSports Update will be back in just 90 seconds.
Welcome back to OwlSports Update. The golf team has experienced mixed results earlier this week in the final round of the Wexford Intercollegiate at South Carolina.
To hear more about this, let's send it over to OwlSports Update's Sarah Winton, who's in the studio set. Hey, Sarah.
Thanks, guys. The men's golf team wrapped up its final round of the Wexford Intercollegiate in Hilton Head, South Carolina on Tuesday with a 16 over 304. The team finished 9th out of 18 teams at 36 over par for the tournament. Sophomore Aiden Emmerich once again performed for the Owls, finishing in the top 20 for the 6th time this season. The team finished second in total pars with 169, trailing only Georgia State's 177. Emmerich led the Owls for the 4th time this season with a score of 9 over and tied for 20th overall. Senior Graham Chase, along with juniors Michael Walsh, Ethan Whitney, and Joey Morganti also had great outings for Temple. The Owls will take a week off before their next 2-day tournament where they will compete in the Cleveland Golf Palmetto Intercollegiate, also in South Carolina, which will take place on March 4th and 5th. That's all I have reporting live from the studio set. I'm Sarah Winton. Meg, back to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Temple may be known for its Owls, but that's not the only birdie here on campus. The Badminton Club is one of 29 club sports teams here at Temple, but the only one using a racket and birdie to play. I got the chance to catch up with the team and see what it's all about.
The Badminton Club at Temple University has been serving up the opportunity to play one of the world's fastest and longest standing ball game sport. For Vivek Chowdhury Kotapati, badminton is a reminder of his community in India after moving to the United States at 15 years old.
Cricket used to be like my number one sport, and then volleyball, and then badminton is there. But when I came here, compared to all those sports, badminton's like the one that you can actually play a lot more than other two sports here. So yeah, I got more closer to badminton now than any other sport.
Badminton blends rackets, birdies, and life skills to create a unique athletic environment for the 20-plus members of the team. The team practices 2 hours twice each week inside Pearson.
Badminton is not only a fun way to stay active, but the skills you learn here can carry into everyday life.
I taught myself a lot of leadership skills, how to lead a group of people. Being in board for 2 years now, I know these are all my friends right here.
Probably communication, commuting with your doubles partner, just telling them plans and making last-minute adjustments during the match.
The club competes in the Mid-Atlantic Eastern Collegiate Team Badminton Conference held twice annually. Last fall, the team placed 4th out of 9 teams. This spring conference is in April in Delaware.
In addition to the tournament, the Badminton Club also competes in a friendly scrimmage with Haverford, Swarthmore, Bryn Mawr, and Drexel.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today.
For our entire crew, he's Michael Mirville, I'm Meg Doyle. Thank you for tuning in and have a great weekend.